Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Marius Bey, who is the owner of Mer Music Studio. And Marius is a accomplished musician, entrepreneur, who has created a vibrant platform for musicians to teach, perform, collaborate, and showcase their talents. And we're excited to dive into Marius's journey and the incredible work that's happening at his studio. So welcome, Marius.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I have to give a behind-the-scenes scoop. Dr. Porter introduced us, who is such a wonderful guy in our community, and I'm so thankful that he did introduce us. It was so funny because I see him on a monthly basis. He's a proud sponsor of our news podcast, the Qabulan History Center is. And I don't know, I guess it was a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, can we meet at this day at this time? I want you to meet this musician that I want you to do an interview with. And I said, okay. I was like, all right, that sounds good. You know, we love having musicians and songwriters and performers, music artists, on the podcast. And so I walk in to the Qabulan History Center and I hear you playing the piano. And there's a couple pianos that you've moved in there, or I found out later when we talked. But yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. So I was excited to make your acquaintance. So
Yeah, well, the pleasure is mine.
what did he tell you on your end? Did you just say, "Hey, there's this guy," and I'm just curious how the conversation went on the opposite end of this.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing. Like it was, he said, "Well, hey, I did an interview with Jake LaMore. I think it'd be a good idea for you to sit down and talk with them, for you guys to set up a time to talk and hopefully do an interview. And I think it'd be really good."
So, how did you meet Dr. Porter? When did you first meet him?
So I first met him. It was about a decade and a half ago. At the time, I was studying under a gentleman named Thessley Beverly. He taught piano and music and arts out in Pembroke. He did it all for free.
Wow.
Part of his Soul Saving Center for Performing Arts. And he really believed in community, building from the ground up on the community level. And he really believed in the positivity and the ability for mankind to be loving and caring and, be unified. And so I was 16 at the time, and I was playing some of my original piano work, me and my brothers. And Dr. Porter, at the time I didn't know him, he showed up for this one particular, performance gathering, and he talked to my music teacher. He talked to me and my family, and he said, "Well, what do you think about, being part of a band and playing around town and things of that nature?" And so we kind of took it from there. And he's been our band manager. We were called the Kumba Soul Band when we were a band, playing together and whatnot. And since then, I ventured off and did my own thing. So as a solo performer, and I do a lot of work with Dr. Porter still. He's had a very important impact on my life and musical career, and still has that same impact. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that continues today because that's where Mer Music is, which is your company. We'll get into that, is your studio. That's the name of your music studio.
Yeah.
But you're doing lessons out of the Qabulan History Center right now.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm just curious, in these formative years we're talking about. So he just came up to you and was this something he had been wanting to do, was like create a band, not necessarily be in the band, but like have a band for the events he was putting on to have music there? Like, how did that, I just find that so, I think it's great. It's so great, but I also just have to laugh a little bit just because it's just like, I feel like you don't hear that too often. It's just like, hey, uh, do you want to play in a band? I want to put you in a band. I just
Yeah,
think it's great.
yeah. It kind of happened like that. Um, so and it was kind of interesting because you know if this guy just comes up, he's like, starts making offers like, you know, I have certain things that I have going on. I like some music. I see your talent. I would like to help you. Go to the next level. Um, and he kind of took it from there. So, and then it wasn't even just for his the events that he put on. There's a lot of other community events that went on as well that he wanted us to be a part of. He thought it would be a good idea to, as we were younger, and as I was younger, to as a foundation for later progressions. So there's work that we did with the Basu Natural Farms with the Marcus Garvey Fest. We also did a couple of appearances with Pembroke Day, a lot of performances at different churches locally. We toured down south a couple of times, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. Yeah, so
That's
yeah,
pretty awesome. That's really cool. The fact
yeah,
that you were able to go out of state a little bit and do some performances down there. Was that something that Dr. Porter set up too?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Man, that's cool. And you at the time were a teenager?
yeah. I was so me and him met when I was 16, and a lot of the travels that we did was about between 16 and about 22, right before I graduated with my bachelor's in music. So yeah, I was basically just starting out, and he saw that talent, and he wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to go and express and develop that talent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing, Dr. Porter and his eye
mhm,
and feel for people that have those talents.
yeah,
It's truly one of his best gifts. So what was your upbringing like? Because you're from the Kankakee County, right? You
yeah,
you grew up here. What was that
yeah.
like? How did music get introduced into your life? Was it, your mentor that you just mentioned a little while ago, or was it before that?
It was mainly my mentor, but prior to that, my grandma, she knows how to play piano. She used to play piano, and she sings. She went to church and she sang in the church choir. Um, my mother also sings, and a couple other relatives, cousins, and uncles, they also play music as well. So um, we always, as far as coming up, me and my brothers and sisters always had somebody around us that always did music, right? Whether singing or playing an instrument, we always had some type of music coming to us and influencing us. From there, then my parents saw the opportunity with Mr. Beverly to put us in those classes.
Does
And
Mr. Beverly still do that, or is he still around?
no, he passed away
He's
several years
deceased.
ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say because that didn't ring a bell with me, but did
Hmm.
he do that up until the end?
Pretty much, yeah. Maybe up until the last couple of years.
What
Yeah.
was what was the
Yeah.
biggest thing that you learned from Mr. Beverly?
Just different ways of being creative. You know, um, growing up in Pembroke, sometimes there's not a lot of opportunities that's already presented, so you kind of have to make your own opportunities. And he was really a big proponent on um, being self-determined. Making a way when you know different things isn't presented. Just using your mind and your senses to kind of make your experiences. You know, he also grew up in the church, and he was very God fearing, and we also got some of that from him as well. Uh, but yeah, he taught most of me and my family piano, and from there I started learning on my own how to compose music. Right.
And what
Uh,
age was that?
this
Was
this
teenage years
teenage
still?
years, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. This is predate college,
okay.
and so I started composing my own music, piano stuff, and a little bit of saxophone and violin as well, clarinet as well. And
Did you teach yourself saxophone and clarinet, or did you pick that up from school?
I picked up a little bit of that from Mr. Beverly.
Okay.
And then, so I didn't go to school for those instruments, but my brother, Marquis Smooth Jazz Anthony, he went to school and he picked up those instruments before he went to college, and we went to the same college. But he took classes with those instruments. So I picked up a couple of tips and tricks from him when I was still playing those instruments.
What college did you go to?
Western Illinois University.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 9 brothers and sisters.
Oh my gosh. So where do you fit in that?
So I am third oldest, and I have a twin sister.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you look a lot alike or no?
Well, me and her doesn't seem to think that we look alike.
Yeah.
But people have said we look alike. So I don't see it.
Right. Obviously, usually if it's a boy and girl twins, you're not identical usually, right. But I was just curious. Sometimes that does happen, but wow. So, okay, were you born first or was she born first?
So I was born first.
Okay.
Yeah. By 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that must have been an interesting dynamic growing up. What's it like growing up with a twin?
So I mean, I guess we have somewhat of a twin connection, in a typical sense where, we kind of read each other's thoughts a little bit. At least
so that exists.
I believe so. I've seen me and her being able to connect in that way a lot better than with our other siblings, right? So whereas we can finish off each other's sentences a lot, or I'm trying to express that idea, the other twin was like, no, he actually, or I'd be on her side like, no, she actually meant da 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 da, and it'd be pretty spot on. So
you're constantly kind of freaking people out.
A little bit. Yeah. We try to tone it down a little bit so people don't get too excited, I guess, but or startled.
So how did I suppose you still could use that to your advantage, but I'm assuming you must have used that to your advantage growing up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you leverage having a twin growing up?
Well, I always had somebody that's my age, for one. I have 2 older brothers. The oldest one is 3 years older than me, and then the second oldest is 2 years older than me. And so, growing up, there's a little bit of separation there, maturity wise. So, I do get to say, I have someone like my age who kind of understands what I'm going through at the stage that I'm at, age wise, growing up. And then also, so my family has 2 sets of twins. So
your siblings?
Siblings, yeah.
No.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you were the first set.
First set, yes.
And then when does the second set come in?
The second set came in 10 years later. So we're 10 years apart. So the second set is also a boy and a girl.
Same mom too?
Same mom. All 10 children, same mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
boy, girl, 2 girls, 2 boys?
Yeah, boy, girl.
Oh, boy, girl again.
Girl. Yeah. Somewhat the same dynamic, but they came out 30 minutes apart. So the boy came out and then the girl came out 30 minutes. So 10 years, right? So then 3 minutes turned to 30 minutes. It's kind of a weird number situation.
Yeah, but that's so cool though. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So
man, your poor mother. I just picture a lot of chaos for your mom and mischief. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys are all pretty good.
Well, I would like to think that we're pretty good, but active at the same time. So
yeah. So you mentioned earlier that your brother plays Anthony, right?
Yeah, Marquis.
Okay, Marquis.
Yeah.
does anyone else in your family, as far as siblings go, like your twin sister, what's her name?
Luvina.
Luvina. Does she play at all or sing?
Yeah, she used to play guitar,
Okay.
right? Acoustic and electric. So I grabbed some tips from her too. I'm not a guitarist, but
no, you got a little bit of everything.
Yeah. But yeah, so we all grew up playing piano. And so her secondary instrument, which she sort of fell more in love with, was the guitar. And so she actually had a couple of recitals that she did, outside of with Mr. Beverly, but she took some private lessons with the guitar as well. And so she had some things that she played as well. So she still dabbles a little bit here and there with the guitar. I don't think after you learn how to play a musical instrument, it's kind of hard to put it down completely. She went to culinary. Well, she is, I would say, a culinary master chef right now. But she's pretty high up there with the culinary arts and the business of that nature.
Just a different kind of artist.
Yes.
Yeah. Not a music artist, but a culinary artist.
There you go.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Are most of your siblings still around the area, or?
Yeah, I have a few that's still around the area. And the one that just came back from Missouri, that's Marquez. So he was in Missouri for a while. He came back. We're gonna do some work together. So I think there's so many. I have like 4 or 5 siblings that are still in the area, and then a few in Ohio, and one down south. She's stationed somewhere, so she keeps moving around a little bit. But,
she's in the military.
Yeah, she was in Texas. Now she's somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that just growing up in a big family like that and having music in your life, did your other siblings that didn't play instruments, did they kind of make fun of you for playing, or did they encourage it? What was that dynamic like?
Actually, there was very encouraging. I would say it was very encouraging. Some of the things that I put on, music camps, workshops, etc., a lot of them were a part of, and if they wasn't a part of it, they'd be like, "You go, Marius, go get it, go do it, make it happen." I've had a lot of support from my family, and I really appreciate them for that. So, and then, so all of us played music, all the way down to the youngest sibling, and the youngest sibling is the singer in the family as far as siblings are concerned. So she picked up the singing from my mom, and
and your mom was like, "Thank goodness one of you did."
right. So
because I remember that was one of the things I asked you last week when we met, if you sing or not.
Yeah.
So
So I dabble with singing a little bit, just to be, transparent. I have sang in the past for a few performances. I wouldn't consider myself as a singer, but I can hit a note or two.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think you would be able to at least do that being a musician.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm curious. I'm thinking now about you're starting to compose your own music around, age 16, I'm assuming. And this is on piano. What did that sound like? Because what type of, when you were learning piano, was Mr. Beverly teaching you all different types of genres, or were you like specifically focusing on classical? Or was he like, no, I'm gonna teach you some jazz and all this other stuff? So I was just curious if you could kind of describe what those first compositions you came up with, what did they sound like?
So with Mr. Beverly, he was really heavy on classical music. I remember several dozen conversations with him where he said he does not like jazz. I don't like jazz. I don't like jazz.
Wow.
Like, okay.
Man, how could I see? I don't understand people that say they don't like jazz, because there's so many different styles of jazz.
Yeah.
I feel like there's one for every person in the world.
Yeah.
Like, sure, if you don't like the loud in your face jazz.
Mm.
Okay, I get that, but like, there's smooth jazz and
Right.
soft jazz and all that.
A lot of different styles within the genre.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So later on, before he passed away, he admitted to me that, oh, okay, jazz is not that bad.
So he secretly liked. He would end his lessons for the day, get that last kid out the door, maybe it was you, and then just let that needle drop, and it would be, something jazz.
Yeah.
I'm picturing that now in my head. Gosh,
Yeah.
that would be funny.
Yeah, so I definitely had a laugh with him with that one. So he was really heavy on classical music, and so that's what I grew up with, classical music. I studied a lot of Beethoven at the time, Mozart, Schumann, and so that was kind of what my experiences were as far as what I could draw back from as far as composing. It's like, okay, well, kind of the styles that I've played was there from their music. And so the first piece I ever composed was a piece called Wandering. It was a short piece, 3 parts. And honestly, I need to find my sheet music for it because that was so long ago. But
so this was not something you memorized. You actually put the notes to
the page,
paper.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And did that must have been something Mr. Beverly taught you, or you just read enough sheet music in your time that you're like, I can do that?
Actually, yeah, I read enough sheet music to figure out I could do that. Yeah. So after having so many examples of great musical pieces, even at that beginner level, I kind of grasped the concept of, okay, well, these these pieces that I'm playing right now kind of have this kind of this unfolding, this structure, this form. I'm starting to hear like different patterns that kind of repeat themselves in variation and in new interesting ways as I go through the piece, and kind of took those concepts there, those musical concepts, kind of applied onto some of the material that I had produced on my own, and so that kind of got me started off with experimenting until I was able to come up with a piece of music, something I actually written down. And so that was the first piece, Wandering. And I think I composed like 3 or 4 more before I went to college. So there's Wandering, Overcome, Creepy Village, some duple and triple meter, some dance pieces, dance-like pieces.
Okay, so but like these earlier pieces that you mentioned, like you said, Wandering, right? Did that have like a classical feel to it, or was it just a thing
much.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by this process because, I grew up being a songwriter as a teenager as well, but in a completely different way, not in a classically trained way at all. So I'm just fascinated to learn from you. Like, you're putting notes on a page. I'm just making things up out of my head. I'm not writing them down except maybe song lyrics, So like, it's just so fascinating to learn how this type of songwriting works, or it's composing really, I guess, is more or less, because I feel like there is. Do you feel like there's a difference between composing and songwriting? Or are they one and the same, you think?
I mean, overall, in very general sense, I think they're one and the same. But I think the main difference when you get down to the nitty gritty is that with songwriting, you have to pay attention to the stresses in the lyrics and kind of the imagery that the lyrics, expose. So there's a little bit more that you have to consider that's not necessarily musical that will enhance and make the music really come to life with songwriting versus composing purely instrumental music. But then on the flip side, with instrumental music, now you have to make the instrument sing a little bit more independently.
Yes,
right?
That's what I was just thinking of. It's like you don't have lyrics to worry about, but boy, you got to make those notes sing and go up and down like a voice would.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm fascinated about. So did you record any of those, or have you recorded any of
Those
those?
earlier pieces, I have
Yeah.
not actually. I've been meaning to dig back into my archives and revive them, just so I can do a little bit of recording of those
Yeah.
and get that on an audio record. But yeah, actually, I'm looking forward to digging back into my archives and digging that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would love to hear that.
yeah,
I really would. Maybe we'll have to set something up and make that happen sometime. So yeah, you get to college, and what what was that like for you? How did that extend your musical journey? Because you went to school
mm,
for music,
yeah.
right? And was the intent to teach music, or was it to just become a master performer and be able to go in the world and join bands and orchestras and all of that? What was the idea at the time?
So I had a very broad idea of what I wanted to do with music, going into college. And so I went in for music composition, and I actually spent my first 2 years in the music program at SIU Carbondale. And so the broad idea was to uh, master, composition, being able to compose and theorize music, and then bring it into the performance setting, right? And I want to continue my work with playing the piano because that's my foundation. So, um, going into college, actually, it was a funny story going into college. So, generally, when you're going into college for music, you have
An audition,
an
right?
audition, and there's a lot of basic things that you would know, like scales
Yeah.
and
It's kind of like
different things.
sports. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to college
Yeah.
for basketball or anything,
Right.
there's like tryouts and you got to know certain stuff.
Right. So I had a little bit of an unorthodox uh, audition because I didn't have some of the standard things that you would typically see that people would prepare for going into a music audition. Because that's my first audition, so I really didn't have that experience prior to.
Yeah, you didn't have to
Uh,
audition for Dr. Porter's band. He just
right.
he just put it together.
Yeah, and then we did our thing.
Yeah.
Right. So going into college for music, I had like I was saying with some of my compositions and whatnot, I had some things that I prepared that even though it was unorthodox in how it went, I guess it still satisfied the requirements because I got into the college.
So
Um,
did you go into this audition not knowing they would ask you to perform these things or write these
yeah.
things down, and you're just like, I don't know how to do that? Or
So they have a list of pieces that they want you to prepare. Okay, so I think it's like two that you from a list that they want you to prepare, and then one you get to choose on your own. And um, all I had was stuff that of my own creation, and then some arrangements that I had made. So one of the pieces that I had was Fear Ellis, but it was my arrangement of it. And then some other pieces that was my original compositions. So I went into the audition to perform those pieces. The auditioner was very impressed, and they said, "Good job, whatever," and I got in. But um, what I played wasn't necessarily the composer's work. From like, okay, Fearless would be Beethoven. It was my interpretation, my arrangement of it. Um, so they took that and they said that was acceptable, and they said they enjoyed it as well, which was also a nice touch as far as
yeah,
the
yeah.
audition experience.
Because you
Yeah.
must have been nervous as all hell.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, because you're like, man, I'm not doing everything that is on this list. Am I gonna make it in? You know?
Right, and that was my biggest concern. That's my fear because SIU is 5 hours away, and I did all this traveling and everything. It's like I don't know how this is gonna go, but we're gonna give it our best shot.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so then you get in, right?
yeah,
You're down there. So you spent 2 years there, and then you did 2 years at Western.
yeah. I did 2 years at Western for my bachelor's, I went back in for a master's, incomplete. Um, but yeah, so 2 years at SIU, 2 years at Western WIU, got my bachelor's, and then two more years, uh, yeah, with further study.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so you're still looking to complete your master's.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
How much more you got left for that?
I'm really on the last leg. So where I ended off was I just completed the rest of my classes. I have to just do some of the the, the exams, which is all at the end of the degree, exams and things of that nature.
So is it a master's in composing then, or what's
Yeah,
the master's in?
it's two masters.
Oh, two.
Yeah, it's composition was number one, and then musicology was number two.
What's musicology? Is that just the study of music, or is that like history of music?
So it's basically yes. So it's basically history of music, and you're also studying not just the music itself, but the composers as well, the reception of the music from the broader society, things of that nature, the impact that the music has on certain areas of society, whether it be the musical realm or how the music impacts other aspects of society.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think about things like the Renaissance
Hmm.
or just any type of cultural thing that's going on. It influences the music. So,
Yeah.
you dive in and you listen to certain music and you're like, why does it sound this way in this time period?
Right.
What was going on in history at this time? And a lot of times, if you look up what was going on in history during that time,
Hmm.
things line up and the light bulbs go off, and you understand why the music sounded that way, or maybe why there a certain string of artists were all singing about the same thing
Right.
at that
Right.
time period, right? So stuff like that,
And
right?
and it's fascinating too because music back then, music plays in the arts is essentially the same for the people back then as like social media and TV is to us right now. It's like, I mean, there was pieces back then, music works back then that when they went to premiere, like there would be whole riots and everything.
My gosh.
People would either be outraged or the polar opposite, where it kind of stops some of those or soothes some of those social unrest situations. And you can kind of see as you look through the history that um, music has both been an influencer and has been influenced
By
by.
things, yeah, it kinda
Yeah,
goes both
yeah.
ways, right? Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's always fascinated me the most and drawn me to music is just those 2 influences that you just mentioned.
Hmm.
So, you go through college and you come out, then what are you doing? What are you doing with this degree? What's going on in life?
Okay,
And
so
about when is this?
so I come out, and this is I'm like 25, 26, and I come out and I wrap up some work with the Kumba Soul Band. We I think we did our last music camp at this time. We went 6 years strong with the music camp and 8 or 9 years strong as a band. And so I left the Kumba Soul Band and I took a hiatus for a while. I got married at the time and had two children. So my focus kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah, that's life changing.
Yeah, yeah. Um so that's what I did, and as of just recently, I got back into the music. So
So when you say hiatus, you mean from music. You
from
don't
music,
just mean from the band
right,
that you were in.
right,
Oh, wow. Was it
yeah,
just because, hey, gotta make money?
right, right.
Eh,
So I took up a warehouse job, and that at the time was a little bit more stable. So
Yep. Oh man,
Mhm.
artist life, man,
Yeah,
is even if you got all the knowledge and all the degrees
yeah,
and all of that stuff, it still is a struggle bus. And I think
yeah.
some people don't realize that. Even in the what I call like the structured
Mhm,
music world like that you come from, because the knowledge you have is so valuable.
mhm.
And while there are a lot of paying jobs in that,
Yeah,
it's
sometimes it
still
can
hard.
be sometimes it can be difficult to find enough work in that realm of things to, um, make that your main, your main, gig and thing to go to. Um, so now, I'm still working that same warehouse, but now I got back into the music.
What
Uh,
drew you back in?
I couldn't stay away for too long. I
How
I
long did you
yeah.
stay away?
So I was on and off for about 5 years, about 4 or 5 years, and, and then I just made that decision where I'm music's been my life for so long, and, I felt like, before I had stopped for a while, I got to that point where I was really about to start being successful with it. It just didn't quite happen soon enough. Um,
Well, your world got
yeah,
rocked a little bit with
yeah,
kids,
yeah,
and that happens.
yeah, and I love them to death.
Oh, sure.
Sure,
And it's
yeah,
not, no,
yeah,
it's definitely, there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with kids, and they change your life, and
yeah,
that's just a fact. It's not good or bad. It's
yeah,
just a fact,
right,
So, I mean, that's what happens.
right, right,
Changes focus a little bit, like you said.
yeah. So, I kind of figured out, I'm in a place where I can focus a little bit more attention to music, and my other passions as well.
I can
So,
imagine that that
yeah,
was a hard decision to make. It was a hard time,
yeah,
right? Because it was probably on your mind
oh yeah,
that whole time, but
yeah,
you didn't have the spare time for it. But now it sounds like you've got some extra time that you can put back into it. Um, and so I guess that's where Mer Music Studio comes in then, right?
yeah,
Since like you're literally just getting back into it.
right. So I got back into it about a year and a half ago, and these things take preparation, so I built that back up. And Mer Music Studio, um, like you said in the intro, is a platform for musicians to collaborate and do different things. And I wanted to make that platform, um, because some of the experiences that I've had, the difficulty of being successful with music, just in general, and you know, the fact that there's not a lot of opportunity at the beginning, to really jump into music and give that a lot of time and attention. The thing is with learning music, a lot of times it's a steep cliff, a steep hill to climb. But when you get up there to the top, and then everything starts to open up and become a little more straightforward, a little bit more easy to handle. So my music company is, essentially a bridge for to get musicians, whether they're beginning musicians, intermediate, or already professional musicians, uh, those types of opportunities, right? So with the company, I connect to different people, different networks or whatever to either create those opportunities if they haven't been already created, or to get people in touch with, people that I think will help them get to the next level in their journey, right? So Mer Music Studio, was official in April this year, and um, so I
Where
set
does
up.
the name come from?
So Mer, that's MER.
Mhm.
So, the name Mer is one of the ancient names for the Moors, like the Moors in Spain, Moorish Americans here,
Okay.
and I'm Moorish American, and I wanted my company to reflect on my culture and nationality a little bit, and so, that's because that's really important to me outside of music, right? Um,
Can
so
you explain that culture a little bit? I'm just curious.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So our national grand prophet, is Noble Drew Ali, and he set up the Moor Science Temple of America in the early 1900s, and that was to teach our people about our nationality and culture. We are indigenous to North America, South America, Central America, and some of us might have lost that knowledge, over the years. But there's a lot that goes into that. Um, so one of the things that he set up was the MSTFA, the Moor Science Temple, to kind of bridge that gap. So I started studying through Moor Science Temple several years ago, and prior to that, I had no knowledge um, of that history. And so I just started digging into my family history a little bit more after coming into that exposure there. And I found out some things about my family that, uh,
You didn't
that I
realize
didn't
before.
realize
Yeah.
beforehand, that we are indigenous to the land here. And
Did your
yeah.
parents not know that, or your grandparents? They didn't pass that down to you as a kid?
No, they didn't pass that down.
Maybe
So,
because they just
the-
didn't know,
right,
as you said.
right. So,
And is that where your hat comes from then? Does it come from that culture?
this is called a fez,
Okay.
right? And yes, it comes from that culture. So, and then the fez has several different meanings. But one of the meanings is higher knowledge, knowledge of self, things of that nature.
Okay.
You know,
And describe
yeah,
anyone that's not watching the video version
yeah,
of this of what the fez
yes,
looks like. It's almost it's like a cylinder shape,
yeah.
and it looks like it's made out of felt.
Felt, yeah,
Yeah.
made of felt. It has a tassel, 360 uh, strands on it that can rotate 360 degrees, and that circle that it makes represents higher knowledge and higher self.
So
Things
that
of that nature.
almost that you can do anything,
Right,
right?
right.
Tell
So
yourself that you can do anything.
right. So when you think about like self determination and making things happen and making things come into fruition, you know, this national headdress is what that represents. Our ability on the earth to do those things that God had naturally, Allah has naturally imbued on us to be able to do.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
cool. I love the meaning behind it.
yeah.
So that's cool. I like that. Um, getting sorry, I was very curious. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting back to that's the name behind your studio, which
Mhm.
is really cool. Now that we know that, it just makes it that more special. So it's almost like with the name, you're setting it up to where you're telling whoever you're working with, it's like, hey, you can do this.
Yeah,
You just put your mind to it, put the work in, you can get this done.
yeah,
You can accomplish this, learning the piano or making your own song, that kind of thing.
yeah. Definitely. If my if nothing else, I definitely want my music studio to encourage people to do the best that they can, to learn themselves and do the best that their ability allows them to. You know.
Okay. So yeah, you're offering lessons from yourself on piano.
Mhm.
What else is Mer Music Studio offering?
So we're also offering. We do live performances, right? So we're offering that as a service. So a few different projects that we are working on, that we've had success with is a project that we're doing with a local nursing home. Um, the the project is called Music Color Mondays, and so every first Monday of the month at a particular nursing home, uh, one of my friends from Lands and Hands, Roger T. Hodge, Minister Roger T. Hodge, he puts on um, an hour or so event where the patrons at the nursing home get to draw or write things out as a visual writing creative art, and me or someone from my company would play live music while they're doing that.
Oh, cool.
So they get multiple different spectrums of art coming at them that they get to experience and participate in. So that's really important for them, and that's one of the services that Mer Music Studio provides.
I
I
would love to listen to classical piano while trying to draw something. That just
yeah
sounds very relaxing.
yeah yeah and we've had a lot of good feedback about that. You know,
That's got to be very
yeah
good for the mind.
yeah yeah, and then we have people, patrons or whatever who just really want to sit back and listen to the music, and we had a few that just falls asleep right into it, and then whenever
Hey, that's fine. It
yeah.
probably would be the best sleep they've had in a while, maybe,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and then, they wake up at the end of it, it's like, "That was so great." It's like, "Thank you." And, there's something about classical music in general, but classical music, I think specifically, that, has a way uh, soothing the mind and kind of refocusing, thought patterns and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. So you've got that. And I did see that I think also with Lands and Hands, right? Is that
yes.
what there's a an open mic you guys started doing at Rubber Rose, right? Is it an
Yeah.
open mic or what exactly is it?
Okay, so it is an open mic. So it's a three-way partnership, Mer Music Studio, Rubber Rose, and Lands and Hands. And basically it's called After Notes, After Hours, Writing Lab, and Open Mic. And so it's a similar concept with music color, um, slight variation. So basically, we invite people to come over at a certain Friday. Usually, it's on a Friday around 7 p.m. and they can write some poems, short stories, draw some pictures, um, uh, either as an individual or us as a group. And we usually have different times where we do those different types of things in that event, and and all while someone from my company is playing again live music, usually classical, but this we do some jazz too with this one as well. So so they so at the end of each session, usually it's going to be once a month somewhere,
Okay. I
and
was going to say, I think it's once a month, right?
yeah, and at each end of each session, then we kind of share uh, our either our story or poem or art with everyone as a group, and we take a picture at the end and we post it on social media, and then we look forward to next time we meet again.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Also, Nikki from Rubber Rose is awesome as
yeah.
well, just to give her a shout out. It's really cool that you guys are collaborating with her.
Yeah, and we really appreciate her leaving her doors open after hours, after her usual closing time to help us make this event available to the public. Um, and I forgot to mention too, it's free of charge. Anybody can come. So when you see that on Facebook, usually we post it on Facebook. It's going to be under Lands and Hands um, Facebook, and sometimes I'll share it, or Nikki Ripper Rose will share it. So you just look up After Notes, and under either three of our pages, and you should be able to see it when it comes up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And there is, if you happen to be listening to this before October, you have a special classical music concert coming up that you've actually worked with Dr. Porter on this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Okay. So it is a classical music concert coming up October 19th at 2 o'clock at the Acorn Building here in Kankakee. Um,
Which is just south of Knack Brewing, if no one knows. Just south of the bridge there.
right.
Um, so on what street is that? Is that McBroom? No, it's not McBroom. I'll look it up later. And
And then I'll post it as well.
yeah,
So just know.
yeah, I'll look that up later and put it in here. McBride? Maybe that's what it is. You know what? I've got a computer in front of me. I can just look it up. So silly. Uh, McMullen. I knew it was Mick. I
Yeah.
just couldn't. So, yeah, for those not familiar, it's just south of Knack Brewing, and it's right on McMullen Drive in Kankakee.
Yeah. And so we'll be featuring um, some music from several composers. I'll be featuring some of my original works as well. I plan on having an appearance from Marquise Smooth Jazz Anthony.
Yeah, gotta have some sax in there,
Yeah.
man.
So we'll be playing some piano and saxophone duo there. And then also I plan on having one of my music students, piano students, to do a couple of numbers as well.
Do you have a lot of openings right now for lessons?
I sure do. For group lessons at the Qabulan History Center, Mondays, I have a session at from 5 to 5:50 and another session at 6 to 6:50. I also do private lessons, and the student of mine who will be performing is one of my private lesson students.
Awesome.
But I have openings for both, for group and also for private lessons, and more on that can be seen on our website, Mer Music Studio LLC.com, or you can email me at mermusicstudiollc@gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook, same company name, Mer Music Studio LLC on Facebook.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. Oh, there was something else I wanted to bring up too. I was kind of bummed when I couldn't find this online yet, but there's actually you're collaborating with another music artist on a song right now, or
Yeah.
you have. I don't think, at least from what I could find, it's not released yet, but it's called Mechanical Motion. And I don't know how to pronounce the artist's name. It's Takira Lotus. Is that how
It's Takira Lotus.
Takira Lotus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a guy I started working with several months ago. You know, he was we somehow started having a conversation on music, and we kind of just took it from there. But he does a lot of guitar work, vocal work, things of that nature. And so one day at work, because we swapped into work together, we got on that subject of music, and it's like, oh yeah, you should listen to this. I got some demos or whatever. That's what he was telling me. And so I started listening to his stuff, and then I started showing him some of my stuff. It's like, hey, you know, we should put something together. And so we started collabing on a piece we call Mechanical Motion. He's on the vocals and the guitar, drums, and I'm on the keys, piano, and some synth sounds. And so far, that's been a fun project, and it's still in the works. But yeah, we're gonna hopefully release that soon, wrap things up with it, and go ahead and put it out there. But he's also on Facebook, and he's on Instagram, probably a little bit more so on Instagram, but Takira Lotus. And you can kind of see some of his stuff, some stuff that we kind of messed around with on my Facebook. And you just see his name on there and just click on his name and he should pop right up too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm excited to hear that when that drops, so I'll be looking for that.
for sure.
So it sounds like a very interesting collaboration. It sounds like something like, have you done things like that before in the past with anyone, or?
Yeah. Yeah. I did, well, for school.
Sure.
But outside of school, not so much. So this is a first time for me outside of, you know, those academic experience, and it's in a genre that I'm not necessarily familiar with as far as writing music or playing music in. So he's more of a rock, you know, type of guy,
Yeah.
and I'm more classical and jazz, and so, you know, we thought we can fuse a few things together and see how that turns out. And
Yeah, let those worlds collide a little bit
Yeah.
and see what happens. Well, I'm excited to hear it. So,
yeah.
the Marius Bey from Mer Music Studio, this has been great. This has been a lot of fun. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to mention or bring up before we close out.
Yeah. So you can pretty much stay up to date with our activity on our Facebook. Mer Music Studio LLC should pop right up. Also subscribe to our website. When you go to the website, we have a subscription form at the bottom of the page on the
Like a
homepage.
newsletter.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that'll also keep you up to date on some things that we're working on. And yeah, we can't wait to showcase some of our talents and provide some of those resources to the community, even more than what we have been doing, and we look forward to what the future holds.
Yeah, and inject some of that classical music into our veins.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting. And thank you to Dr. Porter for setting this up too. So,
yeah, shout out to Doc.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Porter has got his hands in so many different things, and he's really made such a positive impact in the community. So, and it sounds like he's definitely made a lasting impact on you in a positive way.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Well, Marius, thank you so much again.
Oh, thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me.
That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Stephanie Vanderweide for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Pigosh Engineering, King Music, Little Me Studio, Taco John's, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.